Myself, I'm Ratna Bhushan, a trained motivator and guide to IAS aspirant, international motivational speaker, leadership trainer, CEO, coach, political strategist, and policy advisor. Needless to say, a peace bringer. Needless to say, a peace bringer must have a character beyond reproach and must be known for his strict impartiality. Strict impartiality. This is the quote of Mahatma Gandhi from the book The Words of Mahatma Gandhi, written by Richard Attenborough. Richard Attenborough. It's a beautiful quote. The source of news is Hindu newspaper. Vaccine forms a strong immunity, says Putin. Expert raised concern about lack of trial. Russian President Vladimir Putin said on Tuesday Sputnik 5 vaccine for the COVID-19, which has got regulatory approval, is safe and effective. I know that it works quite effectively, forms a strong immunity, and I repeat, it has passed all the necessary checks, Mr. Putin told a government meeting. The vaccine is administered in 2 doses and consists of the 2 stereotypes of the human adenovirus, each carrying a S antigen of the new coronavirus, which enter human cells and produce an immune response. The platform used for the vaccine was developed by the Russian scientists over 2 decades and had formed the basis for several vaccines in the past, including those against Ebola. Authorities hope it will allow the Russian economy, which has been battered by the fallout from the virus, to return to full capacity. Kirill Dmitriev, head of Russia's Sovereign Wealth Fund, said Russia had already received foreign requests for 1 billion doses. He said the vaccine also expected to be produced in Brazil. Mr. Dmitriev said clinical trials were expected to start soon in the United Arab Emirates and the Philippines. Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte has said that he is willing to participate in personally. The approval by the health ministry comes before the start of a larger trial involving thousands of participants, commonly known as a phase 3 trial. Such trials, which require a certain proportions of participants to catch the virus to absorb the vaccine's effective, or normally considered essential precursors for vaccines to receive regulatory approval. Moscow-based Associations of Clinical Trials Organization ECTO, a trade body representing the world's top drug makers in Russia, this week urged the ministry to postpone approval until that final trial had been successfully completed. It's a great news. A fearless voice and people's poet, Rahat Indori was an unwavering light who kept Musharraf poetry alive. Eminent Urdu poet Rahat Indori, who succumbed to COVID-related complications on Tuesday, was unwavering light who kept the Musharraf poetry alive of the generations, a fearless voice who unfallingly showed a mirror to the establishment. A people's poet, he was not meant to be read in the literary journals. He was made to be experienced in poetic soirees, where his unique style of delivery kept the audience hooked for hours. Known for his sharp visual imagery, the poet, who grew up in Indore and worked as an Urdu professor in Devi Ahilyabai University, knew how to reach out of last man in the row without undermining the presence of the poet. If I recite five couplets in a soil, you may not like all of them, but each of them will find an audience. And it is a matter of satisfaction for me, he once said. India's population data and a tale of the 2 projections. The country's demographic feature will see peaking and then declining numbers driven by a sharp fertility reduction. A new study published in the highly regarded journal The Lancet and prepared by the Seattle-based Institute for Health Metrics and the Evaluations has shaken up the world of population policy. It argues that while India is destined to be the largest country in the world, its population will peak by a mid-century and as the 21st closer, its ultimate population will be smaller than anyone could have anticipated, about 1.09 billion instead of the approximately 1.35 billion today. It could even be as low as 724 million. Readers who follow COVID-19 projections will remember that in the March 2020, IHME projected US deaths from the COVID-19 to be around 81,000 by August. Deaths in the US today are more than twice the number. Underlying assumptions for the initial model were not born. The IHMI population projections are also submitted subject to the underlying assumptions that deserve careful scrutiny. They predict that by the year 2100, on average, Indian women will have 1.219 children. Since each woman must have 2 children to replace herself and her husband, this will result in the sharp population's decline. Contrast this predicted a fertility rate of 1.29 for India with the projected cohort fertility of 1.53 by the United States, 1.78 by France in the same model. It is difficult to believe that Indian parents could be less committed to childbearing than America or French parents. Thank you so much. God bless India.